What is going on, everyone? It's AP over here at Rumpier Sports. I'm here again with my two guys. We got Rubio, we got Uncle T. Let's start off with the old guy this week. Uncle T, first off, man, I know it was a tough weekend for you. You weren't feeling good. You were in bed. But I know there were some green screens there, right? Tell me about your week.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you what, the only thing that made me feel better, I've been in bed pretty much 3-4 days now, some bronchitis situation and not feeling good at all. But, when you can sit in bed and instead of just watching nothing but this debate stuff with the presidency, I turn on some golf. And I tell you what, between the panel here, between you and Rubio and myself, I think we put out, some nice plays for everybody last week. I know our core plays on RPS, did really well. And then also the showdowns. And I want to plug that a little bit later in the show, but our showdowns just crushed it this week. So, but yeah, I had, had a nice little sweat going into Sunday, made some money, didn't get up quite in there with the combination to get first place on anything. But, I had Xander. I went all in on Xander late on Wednesday night. I usually don't do that. I usually will be overweight on guys, but I'll rarely go, full board on a guy. I did, which panned out well for me. I had Henley, Bubba, and Neiman in my on my main team, and then I rounded it out with Berger and Newstays. And so, it was a good week for me overall. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I did pretty well in the showdown. So again, when you're feeling bad, when you put green in your pocket, AP, that's always a good thing. So it was a pretty good weekend.
That is a good thing. And yeah, I love the showdown. So like I got the NBC Gold or whatever it is, and I always on one of my screens, I'm always watching it, whatever the feature group is. I mean, you don't get to see every single player, but you get an idea of how the course is playing. Then you can go and look. You can see live stats, stroke gain stuff. You can get an idea of how a certain golfer is playing, and I think that's the edge in showdown. And so my favorite rounds are rounds 2 and 3. I'm not a huge fan of round 1 because I'm always just going to be biased towards my main squad. And so I do love rounds 2 and 3. Rubio, talk to me about your week, man. How'd it go?
So Sunday night, it's looking great. I have Rory McIlroy in the top 10. I got Ricky doing well. And I'm like, okay, it's going to be a good week, profitable. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, I'm driving home from Louisville and I look at my phone and I see Rory go, what was it, 5 over?
Yeah, he didn't have a good Sunday, right?
Yeah, so Rory goes, if you can hear me now, 5 over on those last 3-4 holes or something like that. Knocked me down a ton. Then Ricky had a bad run in. Palmer on, what was it, Saturday or Friday night had a terrible ending too. And it was just one of those things where it's like I felt like I scored really, really well, but caught a little bit of that run bad late towards the end of the rounds. So I middled out, kind of lost a little bit of money despite being very heavy on Xander. I think the exposure to Woodland really killed me. Reading up more, I got really excited by his play. He said he's healthy, was playing through an injury and took that 3 week of rest. And yeah, then he finishes 72nd in a small field. So, but overall, I was happy with the process. This week is a whole nother way to get back on the right track.
I hear you, man. Yeah, I had too much Wolf, and I was looking at Wolf. I was looking at Xander, and I went the Wolf route, and that was not pretty. I think he was enjoying himself out in Vegas after his second place finish, second place finish the week before. So I mean, we can't blame the guy. Like he honestly wasn't. Like that was not, I would not even look at that round and consider it moving forward. I mean, obviously the dude was having fun or who knows what he was doing, but yeah, I mean, good mention with Rory, we were all on him. I was expecting a lot more from him. His approach game is it's not good right now. There's something wrong with it. The guy was gaining, he was number 1 off the tee all week. He was just crushing the ball and he could not get his irons worked out. I mean, he was making long putts too. His putting was actually good. So it was crazy. Let's move on to this week. We are at Sherwood Country Club, the Zozo challenge, or I don't know what it is. I just know it's called the Zozo something. And I know we haven't we haven't seen Sherwood in a long time. This is the course, everyone calls it Tiger's course. This was the Chevron challenge. There was 3 different names for it, but usually it was a 16-man field. the World Golf Challenge, Chevron World Golf Challenge. It went through many different names. Sherwood Country Club, a really prestigious place. And now I'm gonna take just a second before we get into our tiers and diving through this. I went through this course because it went through some renovations since the last time they'd played here professionally. And so the first time I saw this course, I'm like, these guys are going to absolutely destroy this course. We got 5 par 5s, 5 par 3s. All of the par 5s are scoreable. Many of them are going to be reachable in 2. Now, here's the tricky thing. There's 2 or 3 of these par 5s that, the golfers are going to face some decisions. Driver's going to be taken out of hand on a lot of these par 5s. So, the bombers are going to be kind of capped with what they can do. I think it's going to benefit the shorter hitters, to be honest, the more I think about it. Like, I came into this, my first look, I go through all the different holes. I kind of formulate some opinions on how these guys are going to play it. At first, I was like, oh, the bombers are going to absolutely destroy this course. I'm not as convinced. I think it's anyone's game. I don't think distance is going to be a massive advantage this week. The other thing, right before the show, Tiger Woods had a live press conference or something, and he was talking about the course conditions. Now, in his words, he feels that the changes that Sherwood has made has been much more favorable for the members. And what that means is that the course is playing a lot easier than what he remembers. He said the greens are softer, the greens are faster, and it was his opinion that we're going to see some very low scores this week. With that in mind, let's dive in. Let's start with Rubio. Rubio, talk to me about this upper range. Let's go 10K and up. So we got like 5 guys in that range.
So I think most of my builds will be kind of a little bit different than last week. I won't be as focused on the studs. But with that being said, we had Justin Thomas. What was he? 12 under going into Sunday, and then put up a 2-over round and was right in the thick of it. I'm kind of done with Rory. It feels like I've been on him all year, but like this time, you see it last week. There is something a little bit there that we haven't seen, or that we haven't seen from him in previous years where, he's just struggling a little bit. And Justin Thomas is right in the thick of it. 10-6. He's not the most expensive guy right now. And I think you can take advantage of that. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a buy low, but, the 3rd highest priced golfer. But he's definitely been putting up great performances and would have had another top 10 if he didn't just have like a really weird, like terrible Sunday for him. So I think I'm really liking Justin Thomas. And if you had to go another guy, I mean, Xander, and just the form he's in, always shows up, it feels. And, off a great week where, you could argue in round 3, he kind of choked it away, but and even in that par 5 that he bogeyed on the back 9 on Sunday. So he easily could have won last week. So you can't really go wrong with him. But I think JT and him are my 2 faves this week above that range.
Yeah, you got to agree with that. I guess with Xander, that price tag it's up there. But Uncle T, talk to me about this range. What are you doing with the 10K range?
Yeah, I want to mention something before I get into my upper tier thinking. Is when similar to last week when we had these no cut events, people got to keep in mind that your general thought for most people that don't follow it and just are kind of average followers of it and just going is the stars and scrubs approach. Usually when there's no cut, you can jam in. You don't have to worry about getting 6 guys through. You're already going to make all your guys get through. So. Last week, I don't think I think the winner was more of a balanced approach. I think you had to have a couple of those guys up top. But what I'm getting at is you don't always have to go that way. Just go whatever your process takes you. And if it's one guy up top, a couple through the middle, and then a couple, guys at the bottom, just, trust in your process is kind of what I'm getting at. But I just wanted to mention that. But for the upper tier for me, guys, and it's crazy because I think, I've been playing the golf for 4 years. I don't know that I've ever seen Xander Schauffele in any field leading the top of the money board here. 11-2 on DK, 11-6 on FanDuel. I'm at this point, I'm not fully fading Xander, but I'm going to go down a notch to Jon Rahm. And I was off of Rahm last week. I think he may be my lock button. That I locked button Xander last week, guys. I mean, you're looking at, like AP mentioned, 5 par 5s. And I realize that you're right. The course setup, it's a second shot course. Off the tee, it isn't going to necessarily benefit those bombers, like you said. You're 100% correct, but he's going to be able to reach every par 5 and 2. Almost everybody in the field is. I think he, along with some guys we'll get to here in a little bit, I think he could just eat on this course. So for me, my number one guy up in the top range for sure is Jon Rahm at this point, and I'm going to follow up Rubio's call on JT. JT finished with a 74 Sunday. Kind of disappointed. I thought maybe he could, I think he shot, or Jason Kokrak, who made over we didn't mention him at the Open on our recap, but he made over 400 feet of putts last week to win that tournament, and credit to him. But he shoots 64. Justin Thomas shoots 74 on Sunday. I think I'm going to come back with Justin Thomas this week. Again, I just think the course setup is beautiful for him. He's a good driver of the ball, good second shot player. So I'm going to be out on Rory at this point and out on Tyrrell Hatton. And I don't really know why. I could get, you guys could talk me out of it. What do you guys think about Hatton? But for me, number 1, Rahm, number 2, JT up top. But what do you guys think about Hatton? Do you have a take?
Yeah, I actually like Hatton quite a bit. I feel like when you think about this course and you think about how it is a second shot course, Hatton ranks first overall in par 3 scoring over his last 36 holes. He ranks 6th in approach, 15th in ball striking. He's not the longest hitter in the field, and that's going to benefit him quite a bit. I think this course sets up much better for Tyrrell Hatton than last week. And last week he wasn't on my radar, and he started off by going birdie, 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 hole out for an eagle. Like, he had a phenomenal start. Yeah, I agree with you guys. So, like, here's kind of my take on this range. Xander, in my opinion, you got to plant flags. Okay, Xander is a phenomenal golfer. For me, I got a couple problems. One is his price. If I play him, I have to make a lot of tough fades. So the other thing is, look, he wasn't that great off the tee last week. Like, he was making up for it on his approach. And I mean, he just was doing all kinds of different things. But like, there was a few rounds that he had where, I mean, he was not hitting a ton of fairways. He was absolutely pounding the ball, and he was, getting it up there to get, in a position to score.
Yeah, AP, that was Saturday, not to interrupt you, but you're right. Saturday, I think he hit 3 fairways Saturday, so not to interrupt you.
I couldn't remember what day it was, but I love the Jon Rahm call. I think you're always fine going with Rahm. Here's the thing, too. Like, Dustin Johnson, who is not in the field this week, withdrew again. He owns the course record here. It's a 61 back in 2014, I believe. One thing that Dustin Johnson is really good at is being able to club down and kind of manage a course. We're going to need to see that from Rahm and from the other guys. The one other guy I am off is Rory. Now, I was on him last week. I had him as my cover photo. We were all stroking Rory. We loved it. You know what? Sure, he's getting closer, but man, his irons were not good, and that is really important this week. We need really good ball strikers, really good iron players. And so I don't know if and Rory is, one of the top golfers in the world. He could come out and just everything could click, and he could prove us all wrong. I'm going to bet that he doesn't, though, based on how he's played recently. For someone to just completely turn their game around and for their iron game to like switch on a dime is really rare to see. So I think we kind of agree with this range. Now, I actually have a lot of interest in Hatton. I don't like the price, but man, he is playing some of the best golf we've seen in quite some time. I love Hatton. I love Justin Thomas. I honestly think those are going to be my 1 and 2 plays in this range. Rubio, real quick, what's your 1 and 2?
1, JT. Number 2, Xander Schauffele.
Uncle T?
Yeah, definitely Jon Rahm. Again, at this point, I know it's only Tuesday night, and, I'm going to dig in a lot more tomorrow with my research and my process, but definitely Jon Rahm could be lock button for Jon Rahm. So check out our tiers and our core plays this week as well. And then number 2, Justin Thomas, and possibly you guys might have talked me into maybe a sprinkle of Hatton.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the 10K range. You gotta, I think, Uncle T, what you said to start off this show in talking about that balanced approach, I kind of like it this week, and there's a good chance in my main squad I might be fading the 10K and up range. I'm not decided yet. I have a few builds I've been playing with that look really nice and tasty. As we always say when I fade this range. Let's go down to the 9K range. I think we can just cover the whole entire range. We're going from Eldrick, Tiger Woods, all the way to up to Morikawa. So Rubio, let me kick it your way.
Well, I think he's probably a lot of people's favorite play on the slate, but my favorite play on the slate at 9,700 is Webb Simpson. I mean, how can you not go him? In my opinion, you just look at his finishes this year, and he's just been crazy good. And this is a course that kind of sets up well. It's not overpoweringly long, and he'll have plenty of chances to score on the par fives as well. He just does everything right. He just has been one of the best golfers this year, and he has 2 wins to show for it. And I just think, like, if I can get him under 10K, I'm getting just as high a quality of a player as, anyone really. And I really might, if I think I might run 20 lineups, I might have Webb Simpson and I'll commit to him. He's that for me, that core guy. Looking down, I know you had the mention of the COVID golfers who had COVID, in their first round back kind of struggled. But Tony Finau has really caught my eye. What is it? I know he hasn't played the last couple of weeks, but he had 5 top 10s in his last 8 appearances. He's a par 5 scorer too, and he just hits the ball on. And I know that might not be the best thing, but I just think, with a course like this for Tony Finau in the form that he was in and might still be in, had, a little bit of a break. He was healthy last week, but didn't test negative twice in 24 hours. So I think 9,500 for him too. I mean, I'm kind of a fan of sticking in this 9,000 range. You guys liked Matsuyama last week. He didn't do bad at all, but like another week where it seems like we're always on Hideki Matsuyama, but this week I'm going to decide to be a little bit on him more than I was last week just because of my builds. I kind of want to stick around this 9K range a little bit more. And I think Matsuyama, he always checks the mark from like tee to green, and really, it's always been his putter that holds him back a little bit. And I didn't get to see the statistics last week where his strokes and putting were, but I mean, for 9,300, I can get 3 very quality golfers, and that's not even mentioning, a guy like Cantlay who catches my eye, but just the way he struggled last week in the early 3 rounds kind of put me off. And I think those 3 guys that I mentioned were the ones that really caught my eye to look at this week.
Yeah, Cantlay, like, man, what is wrong with this guy? This guy always plays good in California too. Like, his wins have come in California. I think he has a win somewhere else too, but man, something's wrong with his game. But yeah, I love those plays. Uncle T, what's catching your eye in this range this week?
Yeah, for me in the 9K range, when I first glanced at it and started digging into some research, it's the narrative range. You know what I mean? You've got obviously Tiger with the course history, albeit from several years ago, 5-time winner, 5-time runner up. You have that narrative. He's the defending champion of the event, even though it was over, in Asia last year or what have you. And then up top, you got Morikawa, who is a SoCal native, right? So it's basically a home game for him. And then you go down a little bit down there at 9,100, you got Matt Wolff, who grew up about 7-8 miles from the track. So it's the narrative range for me. But as far as my picks, I do like Morikawa. He's been off a little bit as well. He had a couple miscuts. He had a 12th place finish last week. I think he had a top 10 about 4 weeks ago. So he's been kind of hit or miss since that major win. So I like Morikawa. I can't disagree with Rubio on Webb Simpson. I mean, how can you go wrong? I don't know how much I'll have of him, but I'll definitely have some Webb Simpson. But one guy that I'm going to be kicking myself, I think, Friday about this pick, but Pat Reed. I can't get Pat Reed right. When I play him, he really struggles. And when I don't, he seems to really play well. But I just think the course sets up really well for him. He's got an elite short game, and you're going to need a short game here at this course. Again, it is a second shot course, in my opinion. So Pat Reed might be one of my favorites here. The Finau call is interesting, Rubio, because you're right. He is coming off COVID. And the guys in the past, like Scheffler and guys like that, have come back. They did struggle that first week back. But at 5% is what I'm seeing ownership with Finau right now. I might take some shares of Finau at 5% owned. Even though he's, again, missed a couple weeks. But as you go down further in that, lower 9K range, guys, I really don't like many guys. I'm off Cantlay, probably off Matsuyama. Hovland, you can't go wrong with. He's been very consistent. He's been in that 12th to 20th, 25th place finish the last 4 or 5 weeks. So nothing wrong with him. Matt Wolff, I think I might give him one more week, AP. I think he was a little hungover a couple weeks ago. I'm going to give him one more week. I know a lot of people are going to go back to him, and it's not probably a bad call to go back to Wolff because he does set up well here on these par fives as well. And Tiger's the one wild card for me because, again, we haven't seen him hardly at all, right? I mean, since the major, gosh, you just can't go wrong with the course history, and he knows the course like the back of his hand. I'm probably going to play some Tiger, and hope you guys don't make fun of me.
No, I mean, if anything, I'd make fun of you for the Patrick Reed call.
You don't like Patty Reed?
I never liked Patrick Reed.
Yeah. I don't like him. I just think just course setup and what it's going to be required to get around this course this week with the par five. He does have he's got one of the best short games on tour. And I know, and he's rested. He hasn't played in a couple weeks, so I do think he's rested. Plays good on the fall swing or West Coast swing. That's kind of what I'm going on. It might burn me, but
no, I mean he's been playing good. I mean he's been playing over at the over across the pond recently. So I mean he might be a little jet lagged. Who knows? But it's Pat Reed. He can do. He can put together 4 rounds of really good golf. At any point in time.
And lastly, he's 10% owned, AP. So that's another thing I forgot to mention. 9-10% owned for, a guy that, again, sets up, in my opinion, really well for the course. I'll take 9 or 10% owned Pat Reed.
No, I can get on. Well, I can't get on board with that, but I understand you. So like when the one thing I always try to do is I try to look at the course. I try to read a bunch about it, and I try to understand what these golfers are going to have to tackle. And I try to think about, okay, if I could have the perfect golfer that was a perfect course fit to the whatever course we're at, who would that be? And this week, I think that guy is Colin Morikawa. When you think of his game, when you think of how good he is at just these second shot courses, and with how good his iron play is, how good he is on par threes, how good he is on par fives, man, he ranks. So here's the main things I'm looking at this week. It's ball striking, approach, par fives, par three scoring, good drives, which is a combination of distance and accuracy. He's 4th in the good drive category, 4th in par three scoring, 11th ball striking, 10th in approach, and 25th in par five scoring. So like he checks so many boxes for me. And, his putting is it's actually gotten a lot better. He's been gaining strokes putting consistently. So I love Colin Morikawa. I think he is a perfect course fit. And like, if you've never played PGA golf before, you have no idea what you're doing. I think he's like the best guy to start out with. Like, I think he's super safe. He's going to score well. The next guy, I agree with Rubio in Webb Simpson. Webb Simpson's that other guy. Super good on par threes. We're going to get 5 of them this week. He's not the longest of hitters. And so with this being such a short course, it's going to benefit him. And we all know that Webb is one of the best putters in the game. And man, he's just never been playing like better. So like, I think those two are phenomenal plays. I'm off Patrick Reed. If I were to play Patrick Reed, it would be on a tougher course. And I think we're going to see low scores this week. And kind of what convinced me was Tiger's interview. And let me go to Tiger real quick. Earlier today, I was getting so excited about Tiger Woods. I'm like, you know what? I was going back. I was looking at some of the past events here. I was looking at some of the rounds he had. He's played good. He shot 22 under, which has to be the tournament record. Not through 4 rounds. That was back in I think 2007, 2006. But it's been so long. And here's the thing: when he started talking about scoring and how we're going to see low scores, he didn't seem confident at all in that interview. He just looked pissed about it. And that's not what I want to see. I want to see a Tiger Woods that's confident, that's going to come out and, talk about contending. And I did not see that in that interview. Who knows? But then also, I believe it's going to be cold out there too, which is a huge concern with his back and everything. So, Tiger Woods, I'm undecided. I feel like I have to have a share, but if I were being honest and transparent, I want to be underweight on him because I think the scores are going to be low. And I don't know if he can hang anymore. Patrick Cantlay. So Tony Finau, I'm going to be fading him personally. I get it's more so the COVID thing. And then also I think some of his distance is going to be taken away from him. And that's his biggest asset right now. Patrick Cantlay, he's a California guy. He usually plays really well on these California courses. I think he makes for a really interesting tournament play because I think he's going to come in very low owned because he hasn't been playing very well. I think we could get him at 6 to maybe 9%. Hideki Matsuyama, I think he's a phenomenal play. Look, like this range for me is where I'm going to be living this week. Like I'm going to take a balanced approach. I love the idea of starting with Morikawa. I love the idea of pairing him with Webb or pairing him with someone like Matsuyama or someone like Wolf or even Hovland. I think I'll probably be under on Woods, Finau, and Reed. And my top two in this range is one, Morikawa, two, Webb Simpson. I could go on, boys. I could go on and talk about this range for a long time. I think we might see the winner come out of this range. But Rubio, give me your top two.
Top two, can't go wrong with Webb Simpson at number one. And then number two for me is Finau.
Love it. Yeah, and I won't be playing Finau, but if he's contending, I'll root for him just because I love that guy. He needs more wins. He doesn't have enough wins. He got one. And I don't even count that win because I think it was on
the Puerto Rico Open. Yeah.
UncleT, who's your 1 and 2, man?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go Morikawa number one, and then I've got Simpson and Patty Reed as my 2A, 2B. I got to throw 3 in there, not to cop out, but I'm probably going to be playing all 3. So again, to be transparent, Morikawa, Simpson, and Reed. I like the top end of the 9K range, and as we dig in here in a minute to the 8K guys, I think I might like the 8K range just a little bit more than you guys.
So. Are we under on Tiger as a group?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
okay,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be over-owned because of his course history and stuff. So I just think in turn, like, I always love to fade him. It's, it is.
AP, you brought up a good point though about his interview. I didn't see it, but judging off what you said, that's a very good point to kind of catch up and pick up on though, because at a course that he's got to be familiar, happy with, he's getting back out on the course again. He's had, a layoff. And for him to say what he said, I agree with you. I think that just gives some negative vibes that, hey, maybe I can't shoot 20, 21, 22 under against this field. So, Tiger's never going to say he can't win, but I think you might have picked up on something there. It could be a full fade for me.
Yeah, I agree. Let's head to this 8K range, which this range is loaded too, in my opinion. When you think about how the course sets up, when you think about how, I don't think distance is going to be a huge weapon. So, Rubio, let's start with you. Let's just tackle this whole 8K range. Talk to me about who's popping for you.
Daniel Berger, 8,900, the first name under 9K, and he just checks every box. Good par 5 score, and he's not the biggest hitter in the world. Great putter, really good scorer too. So even if he has like a bad day, you can expect some birdies. And I think 8,900. What was it? 9,300 last week. So even that little bit of a price drop, I was kind of surprised to see. I was like, okay, cool, because I think this also lines up with those guys in the 9K range. Then you can really work in a little bit of value too. So I think Berger and even English too, just below him, they're kind of in that 9K range. They're just a little bit cheaper, but English has just been playing incredible golf this season. A top 10 last week, and he even had a really bad round 1. I think he shot like 3 over, and I was like, oh, there's English. But he recovered really well, played 3 great rounds of golf, and snuck into the top 10. And here's another week where he's just a good golfer all around. A no cut event. 8,800. I don't think he'll be too chalk. So, I don't think he'll be chalk at all. But I definitely like him. I'll let you guys talk about Joaquin Niemann. But as I faded last week, and I kind of regret that as it buried me a little bit. But I will talk about Matthew Fitzpatrick. I hated seeing the 600 price drop, and I swear him off. But you want to talk? You say distance doesn't matter too much. He's not the longest hitter in the world. But then he goes out. Then this course would set up, and he goes out 12th last week, 7th the week before, a good form. And it makes me so mad that I'm considering him because I'm bound to hate him because of his comments about Bryson. But think 8,300, all personal grudges aside, I do like that. And one last mention for Scotty Scheffler, just because he's such a good scorer. I know the length won't matter too much, but really like scores like him, even if it's just 8,200. He started off really shaky and didn't really recover, but last week. But this week, I think could be different.
Yeah, I like that. And man, we're lucky Holden's not on here because he would be giving you crap about Joaquin Neiman. So I used to, you know what? I used to call him. I used to call him Joaquin too. I like Joaquin better. I think we stick with Joaquin. I'm a big fan of making up my own names and pronouncing how to pronounce names and everything. So
you gotta tell me some things that would make him mad.
Hey, that's the only one I can do it on because I used to pronounce it the same way you did.
I'm gonna be on that pod with him after the show. I'm gonna mention it to him.
Yeah.
All right, guys. There was just a quick, MLB. It was my first one with him, and I think we got to the end. I didn't know that he did that at the very end. Gave people crap. It was early on, and I think there was like 5 or 6 names I absolutely butchered, and I just
JSU
oh man,
butchers a lot of them too. You and JSU butchers a lot of names.
Yeah,
always give him a hard time.
Yeah, it's what it is. Not about the names; it's about getting the winners, man.
Absolutely.
Speaking of winners, I think this range is full of them. Uncle T, talk to me about some of the plays that you like.
Yeah, like I mentioned a moment ago. So in the low 9 to like from 9,000 to 9,500, if you go up that way, I'm probably going to be out at least again right now on most of those guys. So that's going to lead me to liking a lot more of these guys in the 8 to 8,900 range. Rubio had a couple great calls, stole my thunder on a couple guys. Danny Berger, I had him in my core last week. 28th place finish. Lost strokes on putting last week. He was pretty good tee to green and just couldn't make any putts. So no problem going back to Danny Berger at 8,900. And then Matt Fitzpatrick, Rubio, you're spot on because, you don't have to be a bomber on this course. I usually like to play him on the shorter courses, not the tougher, longer ones. And he's got a good iron game, good short game. So I am thinking seriously about putting Matt Fitzpatrick in my core this week. So I do like those two. A couple other guys, Harris English and Bubba Watson at the top. I mean, Harris English, he led the CJ Cup in tee to green last week, and he's been just playing some good golf, and he's really streaky. So, I think he's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 outings. And then Bubba, AP, you and I were all over Bubba Watson last week. He didn't let us down. I think he finished T7 this week. Another good course set up. You got some dog legs on this course. You know how Bubba likes to shape the ball left to right, right to left, hit it over, around trees. Again, the length, not to keep mentioning it, but again, the length isn't crucial here. However, it's still nice to be able to shape the ball both ways. And I think with these par 5s, I think I'm going to go right back to Bubba Watson, totally out on Jason Kokrak, just because, again, coming off that win, first one in 240 starts. Congratulations to him, but I can't bank on him making over 400 feet of putts again this week. Out on Fleetwood. Fleetwood just doesn't, I mentioned it last week on the show. It just doesn't seem like over in the States here for quite a while that he's performed very well. And I'm not sure what it is, but 59th last week, out on him. Joaquin Neiman, 6th place finish. He was in my core last week. I have no problem going back to him. Probably out on Scotty Scheffler, out on Henley, and out on Sung J M. So that kind of rounds out my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I like it. And yeah, I'm looking at, I got the playbook. It's not out yet. It will be out tonight. We're almost done with it. I got to hit up Hoop to review the cash section of it. That's the other thing I love about the playbook. It's not just one person building it. We got a team building it, and each guy has a specialty. But I usually handle the fades. I know someone was giving me crap on Twitter about last week because I misspelled something or something like that. Look, guys, it happens. It is what it is. Anyways,
AP, can I pick up on that real quick before you go on?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to mention, I was talking to Schneider a lot earlier in the day, and I know that Schneider isn't on many shows and stuff. And like you said, we have 3 or 4 or 5 guys that take care of the golf stuff as far as the playbooks and the core plays. But Schneider does a heck of a job on getting the showdown stuff together. It's probably maybe an hour and a half after each round or so. For the most part, he'll have already the plays up on the showdowns, on the Showdown part of our site. And I just think he does a really good job. You and I, along with him, I can't think of who else on the weekend does the record plays for the Showdown, but I just wanted to plug him because I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah, no, Snyder does. So Snyder runs and manages basically all of the Showdown playbooks. And man, he smashed last week. Like, he absolutely was on fire. I wish I would have trusted him a little bit more on. I trusted him, but like I get tunnel vision at times with some of my own plays. And if I would have just gotten off my own tunnel vision and went with Snyder, I would have done a lot better. But it happens. But man, Snyder, he's been super consistent. What I was saying though was, man, you called it. Tommy Fleetwood's a full fade. He is one of the guys I put down first in the fade section. He's just not playing well. This is a guy that ranks 74th in this field in his approach game, 76th in par 5 scoring, 61st in ball striking. Something is absolutely wrong. Over his last 36 rounds, the main things I'm looking at, they look worse than Jordan Spieth. Like, this guy is not scoring. But surprisingly, what's been good, his putting has been good. Everything else, ball striking, every other part of the game has been terrible. So I'm with you there. However, I think this range is absolutely loaded. So again, I'm going to say it again. What I'm really emphasizing this week is the ball striking approach, par 5 scoring, par 3 scoring, good drives. Russell Henley, when I look at just those things, ranks number 1 overall in my model. This guy, coming off a T3 finish, has a T27, T25, T8, T9. And now we get a course that he's not a long hitter. He's a second shot type of player. He's first overall in approach right now over the last 36 holes, 4th in ball striking, 5th in good drives, 5th in par 3 scoring. His only knock against him is on the par 5s right now. So you got to love Russell Henry. The other guy, I'm glad you mentioned him, Uncle T, Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's ranked 8th overall when you look at these things, these 5 metrics that I'm emphasizing. I don't want to play him too because of the stuff. I think it was Rubio also. I think all 3 of us might be on this guy. But look, he fits the mold. He's scoring really well. He's putting out of his mind, but it's not just about putting. This dude ranks 1st overall in good drives. So he is hitting fairways. And if you think of a second shot course, he's gonna position himself perfectly attacking these greens. I think he's gonna be one of those guys that can consistently score really well, which is what we want in Showdown format. He's too cheap. You could argue that he should be in the 9K range with how well he's been playing. Same with Russell Henley. Same with a guy like Bubba. Same with Harris English. Harris English is, 10th last week, missed the cut at the Shriners, 4th at the U.S. Open. Man, he's been playing just as good as any of these other guys, even like Russell Henley. I think he's underpriced. And then I agree with Rubio in Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger did not get it done for me last week. He was slightly off, but there are so many good things going on with his game, which was frustrating, especially in Showdown format, because he was missing putts. They were just gliding through the edges. And that's the time to get on a guy like Daniel Berger is coming off a round where he played phenomenally. He just didn't have it clicking with the putter, and there's just things off every now and then. So
and AP, real quick to recap if I can. So you're on the Fitzpatrick. A lot of times I try to find, like you just saying, nobody really wants to play. It's like Ian Poulter, right? You kind of try to find a reason not to play him. And a lot of times I find myself, how much win equity does he have? How many wins does he have on tour? But at 8,300, do you need him to win? No, you don't need him. You don't. I mean, if he does, obviously wonderful, but you don't need it. You don't need a top 5 out of an 8,300 guy. You know what I mean? And I think he could definitely top 10 and pay off that price tag. And then also in the chat, I know sometimes we get lost here. Don't look at the chat, but Hunter Weaver was asking about Russell Henley. So hopefully Hunter AP explained a good debate there to definitely play Russell Henley. He's been on fire, and the price is still reasonable at 8,100. So I know Hunter Weaver is in the chat, and I think you answered that question for him.
Yeah. The other thing about Russell Henley is his putting is starting to trend upwards. You know, I always look at that last 50 rounds, and it's on a chart where it kind of shows a graph of how they're trending. He's trending upwards right now, which is kind of what you want to see. And everything else is there with his game. Look, like I think, honestly, if I was playing cash this week, I know whenever I talk to Hoop and we get these no-cut events, the route usually in these no-cut events in cash games is stud and dud approach. I would, if I was playing heads up, I would take a different approach this week. I think this mid-tier is absolutely stacked with plays. I think you could build a phenomenal core with Russell Henley, Matthew Fitzpatrick, and say Harris English. I think that is a phenomenal way to start a build, even in tournaments. And so
yeah,
I love this range.
You even got a guy, AP and Watson, that's like, I'm showing 8%. And then Fitzpatrick, who we like, it's 7 or 8%. So while sometimes you say, okay, well, the projected ownership is going to be, facing, 15 to 20% on these guys. You could get a couple of those guys in there that you like that are in good form that we mentioned at low ownership. So I think that's a great way to go.
So here's my one concern with Bubba. We're all looking at the same data. We're looking at how good he's been striking the ball. We know what he can do, and he's getting talked up. He's going to be a very popular play. And when is the last time he's ever been 8,700? I mean, he's expensive. We always see him in the 7K range. It seems like there's a lot of arguments for him. He's phenomenal off the tee. I think distance here is going to be capped. It's going to cap him a little bit, but his imagination and how he shapes shots, that's going to be a benefit for him, especially when you look at the layout of this course. However, his putting is still not where we want it to be for a guy who could be a chalky 8,700 play. I'm undecided. I want to love Bubba because we're all over him last week. I might make a stand against him if ownership keeps ticking upwards.
Yeah, but I'm only showing 8%, unless I'm looking wrong. I'm only showing 8%. And see,
I
at
show
86,
I show 16 at
Okay,
Fantasy National.
that would change my mind then. Okay, because I'm thinking at 8,700, while you're right, the price is up. I almost like to get guys when they're priced up lower ownership. But if he's at 16% at 8,700, I'm probably going to be off.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. The thing about Sherwood, there are areas where you can make a big number, okay? And when you think of some of these bombers that are going to be, trying to get an advantage, I think it's going to bring some potential hazards into play, which would be a risk with a guy like Bubba. I just think the approach that's going to be optimal this week is going to be with the Henleys, the Fitzpatrick. I wasn't on Fitzpatrick last week. He looked phenomenal. This is a better course fit. So like you could even pair these guys with Morikawa. I think that is like an absolute smash route to go. And I'm a tournament guy. I love like mixing it up and punting. I'm always punting in the 6K range. I'm going to really limit my exposure to that range this week. But let's dial this up. I could talk about this range for a lot longer. I'm going to say, for me, number one, Matthew Fitzpatrick. And then I'm going to say Russell Henley because I think he's priced far too low. Rubio. Yeah.
I think for me, one, Daniel Berger, and then number two, as much as it pains me to say, Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Uncle T.
Yeah, I'm the same. Danny Berger, one, Matt Fitzpatrick, two, and a close third, Bubba Watson. Unless the ownership is at 16, then I'm going to fade.
No, I think this, and honestly, like if I was running a bunch of lineups, I would just be overweight this range. I'd try to have all of those guys that we mentioned. And I didn't even mention Joaquin Neiman. Love that.
I mentioned him, but he's probably going to.
But he's just missing out on my rankings, so he's going to be popular too. Fitzpatrick somehow is like the odd man out. I'm showing 12%, so I love that we're all on him. Let's move on to the 7K range. I know it's a larger range, but let's let's talk about the whole range. I don't think it's too much bigger than the 8K range. Rubio, what do you got?
Ricky Fowler. Okay, no, I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? Look, it's second shot course. I think, who knows? I think there are crazy. There were some good things about him last week, man. You were right. You couldn't complain with his 28th finish. I mean, he did all right.
You couldn't complain at all. And like the concerns were there. And you mentioned you can put up large numbers on this course. So that is scary for Ricky Fowler. But there was several times where you're looking at it and you're just like, and Ricky can, this is a second shot course. If he just doesn't be a dumbass with the driver and don't put himself in bad position, which I know it's absurd to say for Ricky Fowler, that don't be a dumbass sometimes. I love him. He's one of my favorite players. But some of the mistakes he makes, it's just, why are you doing that? And I really think this turn it around right now. 7,700 is such a cheap tag for such a talent. We haven't seen that this year, but I'm just going to continue to ride it. I think that upswing is soon. But on a more serious note, did you guys see who won the PGA Champions Tour last week?
Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson.
I watched the whole. Hey, I remember I was in bed all weekend.
That's
I caught
right.
the entire round. Yeah, on Sunday.
He's 2 for 2,
Yeah.
two starts and 2 wins, right?
Yes, yeah, one in August and then one
Incredible.
last week. I mean, 7,500 length shouldn't be, like you said, too much of an issue. And I know he's brilliant some weeks. And 7,500, the little bit of that form upswing, he did just get a second at a WGC event in July. So like it's not like he's totally washed. I understand there's a little bit of risk, high bit of risk. But we know Phil Mickelson, can always show out in one of these events, especially no cut. I'm comfortable taking him there. Abraham Ancer, last week, him and Ricky were the exact, he was like 100 more than Ricky. This week, the same way. You can argue that Ancer is just a better play all around. But, me being more risk adverse, I'm going to take Ricky a little bit more. But I really like Ancer, in that 7,800 price tag. I'm done with Woodland. He says he was healthy, and then this course is even worse fit for him. That really pained me to see. And then Rose also did terrible too. So, you had your 2 star names right there. Really struggle. Ryan Palmer, really good. Hey, I know the
water course.
You said that last week.
I did. I know.
Yeah. He had a terrible end on Friday. Or I think he shot like a quad or a triple. I can't remember which is which, but 17th still. And in the last round, he's kind of middling. So I'm on him for 7,100, no cut, really good par 5 score. And I just think that he can be effective here, especially for such a cheap price tag.
Yeah, I like those calls. Yeah. And no, I mean, good mentions. Phil, it's just, all right, Rubio. So like scoring's what matters. He gets 5 par 5s. This is Phil Mickelson. He's always he's a birdie eagle machine, but he also brings double into play. And so I think it's going to, I think for Showdown format, we got him on the playbook. Snyder put him up there. So I like the call. I don't know if I'll be on him, but I can't argue against it. Uncle T, talk to me about the 7K range. Where are you at?
Yeah, again, with me liking that 8K range that we talked about for a while, a little bit ago, I'm actually not on a whole lot of guys, and it's kind of scaring me. One guy I want to play, but I just can't. I just don't know that I can do it. Is Adam Scott. Adam Scott's one of my top probably 3 to 5 golfers that I really like watching play. He just hasn't shown anything. Is in bad form. Sets up decent for the course is why I'm kind of hesitant. I want to play Adam Scott, but I don't think I'm going to. You go down, Answer's okay. I'm not playing Ricky until I see some better form. You guys are happy with that 28th place finish last week. Uncle T wouldn't be happy with that 28th place finish. I need to, he hasn't had a top 10 in probably 4 months. Like I got to see some better form at it. And I like Ricky too, Ruby. I'm with you. I actually really like watching him play as well too. I don't not like him. And then how about Jason Day, AP? He's our guy that we like to kind of go back and forth on. Struggled early in the year, went through a nice stretch. And if you guys happen to saw that, he was in that group with Kokrak and Henley, or no, I'm sorry, Kokrak and Shoffley, right? To start the final round, I'm pretty sure he was. And on the second hole, he withdrew after hitting his second shot into the par 4 second green. So Shoffley and Kokrak finished as a twosome. So I don't
Yeah,
know if that
that's
had a little
crazy.
bit to do too with why they played so well. You know what I mean? They were feeding off each other. They only had 2 guys in their group, but not to go on too much further there. But if you go down, I don't mind the Mickelson call, to be honest with you, because again, this is pretty much a range I don't care a whole lot for. So if I land on Phil Mickelson at 7,500, I can do worse than that. You go down off Horschel, off Rose. Harmon, probably not. Definitely not Woodland. A couple of the guys I like, guys, are down towards the bottom. I like Cam Smith. And again, Cam Smith he's been playing, he'll get you between 15th and 25th. Like he is consistently making these, well, it's a non-cut event this week, but I'm saying he's been consistently making cuts. He's not going to probably top 10 you, probably not, doesn't have any whole win equity, but it's $7,200. If he gives me a 15th to 20 place finish, I'm very happy with that. And then Taylor Gooch, I am definitely going back to Taylor Gooch. He wasn't on my main build last week, but I did have a lot of Taylor Gooch last week, played really well. T5. So for me, Cam Smith and Gooch, and probably a sprinkle of Mickelson, and that's about it for me in this range. It's not one of my favorite spots to kind of pick guys this week.
Yeah, this range is it's tough, and I'm not trying to backpedal or anything, but I even forgot about Sung Jae Im in the 8K range. I thought he was 7'9". I see him 8K.
Sung Jae let me down last week. I'm mad at him.
He's a second
45th
shot
place
type
finish.
of player. So this range is, I don't like it as much. I think you really got to pick and choose your spot. I'm gonna really try to limit my lineups to having one guy from this range in there, and it's like tough to even figure out where to start. For me, I'll start up top. Abraham Answer is the guy that kind of sticks out. He's a name. He's solid off the tee. Outside of that, he's not going to do anything flashy. Adam Scott, good mention. He doesn't have enough reps in right now. Kind of in that same like Tiger category. I want a guy who's out there grinding and playing. Ricky Fowler, I'm not playing. Jason Day, look, he was playing good golf up until he withdrew. I don't like if he beats me this week.
I'm shocked he's playing, aren't you? I mean,
Yeah,
after he withdrew on
if
Sunday,
he beats me, he better do it by playing phenomenal golf, because I don't want him to beat me by withdrawing in the 4th round when he's in the final pairing. That is just some incredible tilt right there. So I'm not playing him. All right. I'm looking over here at my fades. Paul Casey in there. I almost always put him in there in these no-cut events because he's allergic to birdies, is what I always say. The more I think about it, look, this guy is good off the tee. He hasn't been as good with the driver, but a lot of these holes are going to be less than driver holes. He's a very good iron player. His approach game is decent right now. His ball striking is decent. And the key thing with Paul Casey that I look for is low ownership. He's got ownership projection tags between 5 and 6%. You know what? At 7.5K, Paul Casey has a lot of experience here. I might actually remove him before we publish the playbook. And I don't know. He's coming around for me. Just when you think about everything, you think about his price. You think of you're going to need some exposure to this range. The ball striking is there. The putting is getting a little bit better. Hopefully being familiar with this course helps. The other thing that Tiger said is the greens are flatter. The last time Paul Casey got to a course where there was flat greens, he like went nuts at like 5% ownership. So I might actually have some interest in Paul Casey this week. I can't play Phil. Justin Rose I played last week, and you could make those same arguments about Rose that I was making about Paul Casey. His game is just, I don't know what's going on. There's just some really fun, like Paul Casey's still playing decent golf. He's just not like his approach game puts him to about 20 feet, and he's not converting those putts at a high rate. And when he has driver in play, he hasn't been as accurate off the tee. But I think when he has a less than driver type of club in hand, it's going to be good for him. Brian Harmon, I think, is fine. His putting's been phenomenal. I got some interest in Sebastian Munoz. Man, he had a few good rounds last week. I think this course sets up really well for him. He always plays really well in these less than driver courses. He ranks 37th in the model I built. And then Brendan Todd, I think a lot of people are going to look at Taylor Gooch, and I think he's fine. But Brendan Todd is not a long hitter. I think this course actually sets up really well for him. I think he's going to be one of those guys that will probably hit all of these fairways. And these fairways are, if you don't place it right, like if you're trying to bomb and gouge, these fairways get pretty narrow. There's a lot of places where the fairway is only like 16 to 20 yards wide. And so a guy like Brendan Todd's are really going to take advantage by just hammering away at these fairways. So I got some interest in Brendan Todd. Let's but overall, like, I don't really like this range. Rubio, who's your 1 and 2?
You're on mute.
Am I?
Oh, Rubio.
Yes, I am.
Mute.
My
Mute.
number one. My number one mute play is I think being all serious cash games and tournaments. I think Abraham Monster for me. He's actually great. He's one of the top par 3 scorers, I believe. I think number 2 for me. I mean, I'm a tournament player. Phil is back. I'm trying not to really go overboard with it. I mean, looking at it, there's been sometimes where he misses the cut on the number, and you just think of Phil. Phil. But man, I just think last week, I shouldn't be weighing a PGA Champions Tour thing, but it just catches my eye too much. The second place finish, a couple top 3s earlier in the year as well. I think Phil's my number 2. And then number 3 for me, Palmer. But I really liked what you guys said about Gooch, Cam Smith, and Harmon too as well. Yeah,
I like those plays. Uncle T, who's your 1 and 2?
Yeah, for me, again, it's kind of a dead range for me. But Cam Smith probably 1, Taylor Gooch 2, and one other guy I wanted to mention. I don't think any of the 3 of us mentioned. How about Lonto Griffin down there at right at 7K? He's been playing some pretty good golf. I really don't have a strong take either way, but he feels, at a pretty good price tag. You know what I mean? If he's a guy you land on at 7K, he's been playing some good golf. Do you guys have a take on him real quick?
Yeah, I think Lanto. I think he's a fine play. I know we have him. I'm looking right now in the playbook. Yeah, yep. I think he is. As Snyder wrote up, he's been quietly posting some solid finishes, just like you said, Uncle T. So I'm on board.
Good.
Man, it's really hard. And what's crazy is Gary Woodland down here, 7,300. I know we talked about him, but man, he's looked bad. There's been nothing good. At least Paul Casey, at least there's been some good there. He had a second place finish at the PGA Championship, which was out in California. He was really bad last week. So I want to fade this guy. I don't know if I'll play him, but every time he has one of these rounds where he loses and just, he lost almost 10 strokes through 4 rounds, total strokes gained. You never see that from Paul Casey. Every time he's done that, he did that at the WGC event back in August, followed it up by a second place finish at the PGA. So he's a guy that's going to have a short-term memory, and no one's going to play him because they saw what he did last week. I think he makes for the perfect tournament play that'll go really really low owned. He has a ton of experience here. He was in a ton of those events playing with Tiger Woods back in the day. So I think he's interesting. I don't know if he'll make my 1 and 2. It's just this range really sucks. If I had to say 1 and 2, man, I would say I'm going to say Sebastian Munoz and Brendan Todd, and Paul Casey might sneak in. Who knows? He's a fade. I got him as a fade, which is just so funny.
I wanted you guys to talk me into Adam Scott because I want to play Adam Scott and I just can't pull the trigger. Maybe I will by tomorrow night. I don't have it. I like Adam Scott. I just feel like for the price, 7,900, it just feels, even though he's not in the greatest form, the course, again, he's got 4 or 5 par 5s. He hits the ball well off the tee. I just want to be talked into him, but you guys didn't do a good job of selling him to me.
But I mean, at least a guy like Paul, at least Paul Casey's been playing. Okay, I want to see reps there. Paul Casey has the reps. Now you get to a course that he has some familiarity with and low price tag, and always with Paul Casey, low ownership projections. So, you know what? I'm going to put Paul Casey in there as my number 2.
I like the Paul Casey call. AP.
And I'm always, I'm a Paul Casey hater. I make fun of him because he never makes birdies.
Well, he can't go low is the thing. I don't think he can win this tournament. His win equity is like very little. But again, he's not 8,500. He's 7,500. He's not 8,500. So I agree with that.
All right, let's move on to this 6K range. We'll just the entire 6K range. I think there's a couple interesting plays in here. Rubio, what do you got?
Well, first I want to say Adam Scott's one of your favorite golfers to watch.
I like Adam Scott.
I
like Adam Scott. What's wrong with
just
that?
a belly putter. Oh my god!
Hey, when you get older, Rubio, you're like 20, I think. You're not even old enough to drink or old enough to drink yet.
Deuce.
Adam Scott, you're dishing on Adam Scott. I like Adam.
I just can't believe you like to watch him. I mean, I cringe every time he's putting. I
went up to Firestone a couple years ago, and he was one of the groups with Tiger I followed around and watched. So I kind of got to liking to watch him then. So
okay, I like that. Then.
I'm embarrassed to talk about this range. I'm going to preface it with that. You guys might make fun of. I got this guy as a fake too.
Don't.
You guys might.
Don't.
Make fun
You didn't
of me.
talk to Snyder earlier, did you? Oh, don't say
just
Jordan
wait.
Speed.
Just wait. I got a reasoning for it. Go ahead, Rubio. The floor is yours.
Okay. Do you think, I want to talk to you, AP, one question. You can answer yes or no. Do you think Cam Champ succeeded last week for DFS?
I would say he was okay. I would say, yeah, he succeeded in the format with his price and the format that last Eagle pushed him over the top that he made.
Okay. So there's a guy below him who finished 6 strokes worse, but only finished 5 points less. His name is Corey Connors. Really terrible round one. Kind of played a bit average over the next 3 days, but he scored really well. 18 birdies. You know, he had one 3 birdie streak, which I think Champ had done, but Champ had 3 eagles, and I was like, oh, there's no way. And then you look at it, it's kind of crazy how Corey Connors is able to score so well. I really kind of liked him last week. Kind of ended up with a little bit much more than I would have thought. I really like that for 6,600. Another guy who I was heavy on last week, and this is kind of what tanked me down a little bit, Alex Noren. I think this is a better week. I really came in excited. He had, like 3 top 10s in his last 5 appearances before that, I believe, or it might have been 6. 3 top 10s in his last 6 before last time. This is a good bounce back opportunity for him. He's not the longest hitter, so this course could set up a little bit better. And he's always been good on par 5 scoring as well. And we have 5 of those. So I think for 6,800 last week, I was on him. So this week, why get off the process? A guy can have a bad week every now and then, and he's cheap. A couple other names I want to mention. Jal Dahmen. He's a guy who, just kind of solid all around, not a heavy hitter. 6,500. I can definitely see myself putting him in if I do go run a couple stud lineups, as an extra salary saver. But pretty much for this range. Oh, one other name that I made sure to mention at the beginning of the show, Kevin Streelman, really good par 5 score, 6,600. Really interested in him as well. So yeah, other than that, I think I'm done with that range.
Yeah, I like it. Uncle T, talk to me about the range.
Yeah, not going to be living in this range just based off of what we talked about the last 45 minutes with the guys above. But I will mention a couple of my favorites down there. Kevin Kisner at 6,800, kind of like me a little Kiz this week. Don't mind maybe going back to Champ again. I wasn't overly pleased with what we got out of him, but again, you're still getting 4 rounds of golf, 5 par 5s for Cam Champ. Maybe he can increase on that 42nd place finish last week. I don't necessarily mind him. One guy I never played, but he's been playing some pretty good golf is Harry Higgs. I mean, I'm not saying just again for 6,700 down there, he's got 3 top 20s in his last 5 outings. Been playing some pretty good golf. I don't mind the Streelman call. And I also like Joel Damon as well down there at 6,500. Again, in this range, you're not grabbing onto a whole lot. You got no course history. And then the past, recent form on these guys hasn't been great. That's why they're priced down here. So, AP, I'll leave the punts. You're usually pretty good at finding a couple gems down here for us, but I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, man. So I do think there are a few interesting plays. Let me talk about. All right, so we fade this guy every week. He's an automatic always fade. But look, in this format, I think there's an argument that can be made for Jordan Spieth. And let me paint that for you. I don't know if I'm going to play him, but I think it's worthy to talk about. Look, this is a less than driver course for a lot of these holes. His driver is terrible right now. He has no idea where it's going off the tee. But man, the other clubs, some of the ball striking's there. I think the less number of drivers in hand is going to benefit Jordan. This dude, he put up 85 fantasy points last week. He was the highest scoring guy in, he finished 38th, but I'm pretty sure he was like one of the highest scoring guys when you look at that range of like 25th to like 40th. Like he was, he's either making bogeys or he's making birdies. And you got to like that here. And with, this course being shorter, I think it's going to set up well for him. So all I'm saying is I think in tournaments there is some interest to be had there. And I think look, Spieth is projected to be about 7% owned. There's someone out there that's pumping up ownership on him. And I think what they're looking at is scoring. And if you need one of these punts, an 85-point finish could be enough, or a 90-point finish, if you have the winner too, could really be enough and be all that you need. And so I don't like Spieth to contend or anything like that. I like that he's going to make birdies because that's always what he does. So let me go through some of these plays real quick. Let me go to Cam Champ. I was really high on him last week. I'm not as high on him this week. I think people are going to look at him. They're going to look at 5 par 5s. And he's a bomber and think to click his name. Honestly, though, I think with at least 2 of these par 5s taking driver out of hands, it's like if you have driver on 2 of these par 5s, you're going to be hitting it into the shit because you want to keep it under 300 yards. So with Cam Champ, that kind of hurts him because it's taking driver out of his hand. And so I think people too, I think his ownership is kind of inflated, so I might be underweight on him. Matt Kuchar, I think it's kind of interesting. He sucked. He's been really bad. But look, this course is short. It's going to benefit him. He's actually been decent off the tee, good par 3 scoring. He's kind of interesting. I love the Harry Higgs call. Love the Corey Connors call. Tyler Duncan is probably my favorite play in this range if you're talking safety. He fits the mold like a Matthew Fitzpatrick, a Russell Henley. He's a short hitter, but he's incredibly accurate, and he was phenomenal. He did exactly what we needed to do last week. And Hoopster played him in the first and second round showdown rounds. And I think that's what that 100K shipper that he had, or whatever that screenshot that Hoop had. It was Tyler Duncan was in there. I think this course actually sets up better for Tyler Duncan. He's 6.5K. I think he definitely might make my main squad. One of you mentioned Joel Damon. I think he has more maybe upside, more win equity than a Tyler Duncan. You got to love him here. He's been phenomenal off the tee. He just, man, he makes dumb mistakes and he can get himself into trouble at times, and it gets really frustrating. And so
he can get streaky. AP. He can get on a birdie train. I like the Damon call though.
And then Mark Hubbard is the last guy I have interest in. He's a good driver. Mark Hubbard plays really well in these short courses. I do not like playing him on longer courses. He's not a long hitter, but he's very accurate on his approach. He's very accurate with his irons, and he's been putting pretty good, coming off a 17th place finish. So I got a lot of interest in him. Rubio, give me your top 2 plays in this range.
Top 2 plays for me: Corey Connors and Kevin Streelman.
Uncle T.
I'm going to go Kevin Kisner and Harry Higgs in the below 7K range.
Awesome. Let's for me, it's Tyler Duncan, and I didn't talk about him very much, but Corey Connors, Rubio, you hit on him. Both of you guys hit on him. Everything's there except for the putting. That's going to turn around here really soon, but he's underpriced. The price is way too low. Let's talk winners, guys. Give me again. Let's do it like we do every week. Let's one guy who
2 or 3.
Two. So one guy, it doesn't matter what the price is, who you just think's going to win, and then we need more of a longer shot. Rubio, let's start with you. Okay.
Webb Simpson, my number 1, and you want my long shot, Phil Mickelson.
Oh
man,
I'm doing it.
I like the call. I like it.
Does Tennessee allow sports betting yet on the DK Sportsbook? If so, when I head down this weekend, I kind of want to bet that.
I got Phil at 60 to 1, so that's not a bad price on Phil. Yeah, for me, I'm going up top, and it's not, I'm not going out on a limb with my winner this way. I think John Rahm's going to run away with this. I think he wins this by 2-3 shots. So I'm going John Rahm up top, and my guy, I'm going to give you 100 to 1 shot, guys. 100 to 1 shot. Kevin Kisner down there at 6,800. I'll go with a little Kevin Kisner to maybe, get some magic going and possibly be in the hunt on Sunday.
I absolutely love that call. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna put an outright on that. I love Kevin Kisner. Love him at courses like this. That's man. I can't believe he's 100-1.
I was upset last week, guys. I actually went all in on Xander on DFS, and I also bet Xander. So I got a little bit let down on not cashing that in last week when I thought I should. But you know, this is a new
like
week.
that. I'm going to say, so my more obvious one, Colin Morikawa. I just think the course sets up really well for him. And man, I'm going to commit to this ball striker second shot course narrative. And I'm going to parlay that with Paul Casey, the guy I always make fun of, 66-1. It goes back to that other thing. Like, find me another 66-1 guy, actually Phil Mickelson right there.
Phil Mickelson.
Hey, that's well, Phil's one more than Casey has of late, but I'm gonna say Paul Casey. I'm gonna say his irons show up, and I'm sure I'll get made fun of, or I'll make fun of myself come next week when he sucks. But it is what it is. So all right. Hey, boys, I know we got another show to get to, and I want to go watch this Dodgers game. Where, for me, AP, Rubio, and the man, Uncle T, we are out.